All right, you're going to learn some tactics today about how to start documenting your journey using your social media and how to turn your social media into dollars. And so, I couldn't be more excited about this because I've been watching from the sidelines as a legit fan of these two amazing individuals out of Salt Lake City. And I'm just amazed with what you've been able to do with your social media. So today we have two amazing guests, Los Hermanas de Real Estate in Salt Lake City, Gabby Zenner and Marcella Torres. Both were working 9 to 5 jobs, barely making it. I think it was like in call centers, just straight hustling. And then you guys decided to make a bet. You bet on yourselves and you went full entrepreneur selling real estate. And here's what I absolutely love is that you guys made a decision to become multimillionaires and you guys are both documenting the journey like no one else I've ever seen. You have your personal life, you show everything. And so I feel like I'm living this amazing American dream by watching you. And some of the other cool things you guys are doing is you were both named president and vice president of a local NAHREP chapter there in Salt Lake City. You rebooted the entire chapter, which is really cool. Top 250 NAHREP, top 500 in Salt Lake City. I mean, I can go on and on, but you guys have done amazing things. You also created an amazing local community in the Salt Lake City area that is called the Real Estate or RE Sisterhood, which has events every couple of weeks. You guys have done. You've had me out there to speak, which was probably one of the coolest things I did. But it's just an amazing community that you guys have built. So I thought that it would be really, really cool for anyone that's watching and saying, how do I get my name out there? How do I document my journey? That we can get you guys on to talk about the tactics that you're doing today to really get, seen in your market. So I want to thank you guys for being here today.
For having us, Chris.
Yes, thanks for having us. We're excited.
Well, let's talk about it. So tell me a little bit about, let's just talk about the journey that you guys have been on in terms of getting involved in NAHREP, getting involved in your community. Like, where did that all come from?
Well, I guess I started real estate about a year before Gabby did. And through the RE Sisterhood, we have to find quite a bit of speakers. And we had someone come and speak, and that person is Nuria Rivera, and she is, and at that time was the national president for NAHREP. So in having her come speak for our event, she met me and then one day brought me in, and it just turned into this, hey, I have the NAHREP chapter for Salt Lake. It's so close to my heart and it needs to be rebooted. And so naively, I took on the challenge because I was really new and I didn't really know what I was doing. But I just remembered I was still in the momentum of knowing that anything I wanted to do would require me being uncomfortable. I had been uncomfortable for over a year now. And so I said to her, I'm really scared and something tells me that's why I should do it. And so I jumped and I rebooted the board, and my sister joined me a year later. And I'm so happy that she did. And now she's, moving on into that vice president role, which is awesome. But it's been something amazing to have a platform for myself and for her and for the Hispanic community, and getting involved in making friends, especially coming from a small brokerage. We don't really have that ecosystem already built for us. So we basically had to build it, and it was done a lot faster by these networking groups and, a nonprofit that we became part of.
Making connections. Absolutely.
Well, so you said something that I want to tap into, because I think a lot of people, get into their heads about doing something that's uncomfortable. So you said, I was feeling this certain way, and that was my cue to lean forward, right? In doing something that was uncomfortable. But most people take that cue to pull back and actually not get something done, right? Like, you guys being on the podcast, like somebody else would have said, maybe not ready or whatever. They get that mindset, but you guys have just leaned in on every opportunity. Where do you think that comes from?
My mom, I would have to say my mom, and she's just been a big advocate for us to never have any fear and to just jump in, because I mean, what are you going to get out of it? If you don't try it, you're not going to get nothing out of it. And if you fail, oh well, you try again. But that's always been instilled in us from day one.
Yeah, I think obviously the obvious response is to say no. And, you miss a shot you don't take. And my experience had been at that time that I had to put myself in awkward situations. And it was awkward because it was doing something new. I felt like I was, imposter syndrome or whatnot. But very early on in my career, and I know I'm sure Gabby felt the same way, I knew that I had to act like I knew what I was doing, or, perception creates reality. And so for me, I knew immediately putting yourself in these rooms and on these platforms, being a part of these boards and being able to say like, oh, I'm a director in the NAHREP chapter, it does give you proximity, and it gives you, the ability to put your name in a spot that others don't. And so I've never seen my mom play small, and I know Gabby hasn't either. And so for us, it's always been like she achieved so much with so little, and we have to do that much more because our opportunities and options are so much bigger. So, I mean, yeah, we really rarely say no. And I always tell Gabby, I'm like, oh my heck, why did I say yes to this? I'm always like putting us in situations where we're over here teaching kids in high schools, and then we're doing NAHREP events, and then we have the sisterhood, and we have our client events. But everything going on, I think ultimately for us has always been like we have to show our audience that we are well-rounded. And so
there's no fear. And then for me, Chris, I came to United States illegally when I was about 6 years old. We crossed the borders with my brother and my dad. So anytime that I could
Do you
take,
remember that? Well, hold on. Sorry. You can't just
What?
glaze over that. That's a big deal, right? So when you did this, when you crossed over, you said you were 4?
I was about 6 years of age.
Oh, 6 years old. So when you did that, do you remember like the actual experience of that
Oh, I
happening?
remember everything. I remember it like it was yesterday. So
Well,
it was about 6 years of age. Yeah.
yeah. So let's talk about that, because that's like, that's a really big journey. And I've never heard you talk about that. So
Yeah,
let's
nobody has. So yeah, I was
elaborate.
about 6 years old. It was in the late 80s. It was when the war was happening in Nicaragua, and we only had my brother and I. We had a mom, we had a dad, we had a great family. Um, and in a few hours, everything changed. And all I remember was my mom saying, "Hey, Gabby, I'm going to take off and you're going to be left with your dad, but he's going to take care of you." That was never the case, which is fine. However, when it was time to get ready to cross the border, I believe I was 6 going into 7. And yeah, it was a scary, absolutely. I think it was about a week and a half where we were actually imprisoned in Mexico. And I remember that, like I said, like it was yesterday. And we got caught not once, but twice crossing the border. I do recall that we ran for days and hours, and I was very sick. And but all I had was I just had that dream that I needed to make it happen. And the only way that I was going to make my dreams come true as a little kid, I didn't even know what really dreams were, but I know I needed to reach America. And so, as far as fear or being scared about, making an offer, being on social media, being on this podcast, there's nothing really that fears me, Chris. So, as far as, being scared or anything, no, not at all. And, it's always been in me. We jump and we'll figure it out as we go. And, we always figure it out.
I think those are the life experiences that really shape, this fearlessness that some people have to have in order to make a bet on themselves. It's, I can be afraid. I used to make this joke, like, I don't want to be that guy that is afraid of has to explain to my kids that I couldn't send them to college because I was afraid to pick up the phone.
Mhm.
You don't have that mechanism that says, "Oh, I'm afraid to do this," because you've stared, life in the face in a way that most of us haven't had to. And, this is easy compared
Oh, yeah.
to what you've had to live through. So, Man, I'm just amazed by that story. So what a crazy thing to think about. And this is awesome that you were able to do that and be here today to talk about it.
Absolutely.
When you guys started to get traction with real estate, what came first? Was it starting to see momentum in real estate and then deciding that social media was going to play into it? Or was it, in order to get momentum in real estate, we have to be on social media? What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, like I mentioned before, I started real estate about a year prior to Gabby. Both for the same reasons. We
You
both
say that
spent,
because you're the younger sister and you want to make sure that your older sister knows
just
that
so everybody knows, but it
that's
just is a little different. I think I say this because it plays into the fact that Gabby came in and adapted so quickly, and that's why we were able to grow even faster. But she came in, and I had already been going for a year with little to no support. And so, when I say little to no support, my mother's been a real estate agent for the last
okay.
25 years. And it was an automatic thing, right? To go to her brokerage. It didn't make sense to really go anywhere else. It was, you're going to work with your mom and you're going to stay at this brokerage. But the reality was there was only 4 people and all of them were above the age of 50. So I knew really early on that I wasn't going to receive the type of I don't know, support, exposure, yeah, with them. And really, like, they weren't going to teach me how to make a reel and do things like that. But I was already in that generation that used social media. I grew up on Facebook. I grew up on Instagram. I already loved it. Posting reels and making, social media something that I use consistently was nothing I had to introduce. I was already doing that. And so when I started real estate, I also left my 9 to 5 and I was a single mother. It was a really split decision. It was very irrational. I didn't even think about it. I didn't think about losing my health insurance, my benefits, nothing. I just thought, I'm going to make it. Yeah, I'm going to make it happen. And it was one of those moments, like you said, I don't want to look at my kids and be like, I couldn't do this because I was lazy. And I realized that, coming out of a really abusive relationship, I had one of those moments where I asked for some money and he said, "Where's your money?" And I thought to myself, I said, "Where is my money? You know what? You're absolutely right. Where is my money?" And I thought, I'm never going to ask anybody for anything again. And if somebody wants to give me something, great, but I should be able to provide for my kids and I shouldn't have to ask anybody for anything. And I moved with that momentum. I got my license in 56 days. I left my 9 to 5, but it meant that I needed to do 2 jobs at the same time. So I took on a role as a property manager and I was in the office all the time. So I was doing real estate and property management so that I could still pay my bills. But it also gave me a lot of free time. And so I started getting on social media and I would look and I would see that really the only thing they were doing was going on social media and posting these videos of houses. And like, I didn't know anything really, but I just started copying. I would go on social media, I would find a couple reels, I would remake them and post them. And I remember going through, again, imposter syndrome and thinking, I don't even know what I'm talking about. But I did have a background in real estate. Both her and I spent over a decade doing mortgage servicing. So I've done short sales, deed and liens, everything you can think about. Foreclosures. We've seen everything. We helped these clients come back from the 2008 recession. So we have seen it. We've lived in it our whole lives. It just wasn't in the sense of selling real estate. So I applied what I knew and I started making reels and I would go to homes and I would schedule listings or I would schedule showings on homes that were vacant but staged. And I would go in and I would do reels and then I would do whatever I could to make it seem like I was working with all these people. And I realized that perception really was reality because people thought I was killing it. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, you're so good." And I was like, "What?" laughing hysterically at myself because I'm like, I have literally not closed anything at all. But people thought that I was showing homes. And so I realized really quickly, okay, so what I need to do is just tell people every single day that I'm a real estate agent. And eventually, hopefully, somebody will call me and ask me to help them.
Wait, hold
And
on.
my
I'm
client,
sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but write this down if you're listening. I mean, if you're watching this or writing, if you're, on the live stream or you catch this somewhere, letting people know every day how you can help them is probably one of the most important things you can do. But you also said something else, and I don't want to miss this because, I want people to really think about this, because while you felt like you were an imposter, by going into these homes every day and posting something about it, what you were doing was strategizing on, I am putting something into action. I'm actually, I can sit at home and do nothing, or I can get out in the community and go look at homes that are already staged and promote them, right? But in your head, you're not necessarily categorizing it like that. You're like, you kind of feel like an imposter. But instead, that action created momentum that then created, people to reach out to you. And all of a sudden you started, selling more houses. But I think if anybody's listening to this, one of the things that I would say is getting out there and promoting what you do and how you can help someone else is probably one of the most important things that you just said. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but keep
no,
going.
that's great.
Flow.
And I think to segue into the next part, I did build momentum, and I did about 14 transactions my first year by myself. And then my sister, I started getting really busy, and she was like, okay, I think it's time. I'm gonna get my real estate license. And I was like, yeah, do it. And my mom was like, you're gonna do it this time. And granted, everybody should know my mom paid for us to get our license
When
twice,
we were babies.
but we never did. And so she did try. And at this point, she was like, sure, they're going to get their real estate license, but she did. And she came on, and I remember telling her, like, really, really early on, she's always been very private. I'm extremely private. Really, if she had Instagram, it was private. If she had her Facebook, nobody knew about it. And so I knew when she came into the industry, that was going to be her first barrier or like roadblock, if she doesn't like anybody know who she is or where she's at. And in real estate, you don't have that option. Your phone number's everywhere. You have to be everywhere. And so I told her, I said, you're gonna have to let that go, and you're gonna have to start posting Instagram reels and videos. She was like, absolutely not. Cringe. And I'm like, no, you have to. You have to. And I think for me, it was so awesome to see her come in and start doing just that, just posting on social media. It wasn't anything else. It was just posting on social media. And slowly her momentum started picking up. And she got her first client through social media. And I know that was really quick. It was like months into her getting her real estate license.
What was the DM? How did it work out? Like, walk me through. You made a post, right? You're making posts.
So actually, so I get my real estate license May 1st. I get my real estate license. I pay for all the fees within 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, though, I would post and post and post. And I would go to showings. I would post the houses. And a friend, somebody on social media said, hey, you know what? I really like that property that you have. In a couple of weeks or maybe in a few months, I'm going to be ready to buy. And so from there, I started nourishing. That was my first like potential lead. And so we made that deal happen. And then we got on rock and roll. I said, somos hermanas. So why not do my signature as Las Hermanas de Real Estate? And that's how Las Hermanas de Real Estate were born. I said to myself, hey, I think this actually sounds pretty good. And hey, we're sister by blood, and we will be here till the day we die. And so why not start that name? And that's how that name came into play.
I should say, I think Gabby made that sound so beautiful and like it went through like just like, a easy thing. But the reality is my sister doesn't like change. And for her, stability and knowing exactly what's coming and being able to say like, I have X, Y, and Z is a necessity for her. And she is older than me, and so I think she's always been wiser, and granted, that's a good thing. And I think now that we've been in business for over a year, I see it. And every once in a while I'll tell her, thank God we work together, because I wouldn't have been able to do that. And then she'll say the same thing, like, thank God you're here, because I don't know how you do that. And so it's a good balancing act,
Yin and yang.
yin and yang. But she definitely took a minute to push off, the leaving her comfortable or
Comfort
not
zone.
her comfort zone, right? And we were so busy, and I remember looking at her and thinking, like, you need to quit your job. And she wouldn't. She's like, no, I can't. And I'm like, we are so busy, and I promise you it will pay off. Like,
And I was working around the clock, Chris. I was working my 9 to 5. As soon as that shift ended, I would start showing houses. I would start, if it was a listing that we were getting ready for, I worked. I wake up every morning at 4:30 a.m. and I begin to work. It never stops. I'm on the phone by 5 a.m. Her and I have already had a few emails exchanged, a few texts like, hey, this morning we're doing X, Y, and Z. I will be to your house at, X, Y.
but the reality, what I mean is
Yeah.
like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you want to do well in real estate, you need to be full-time, period. And I know that a lot of people may hear that and take offense to it because maybe they're part-time real estate agents. But the reality is unless you're doing this 100% of the time, unless you have to sell to eat, you don't have the fire that other agents do. Gabby and I have that. We wake up every morning and we can't fall off. We are self-motivated. We have to keep going, and we keep driving forward regardless of outcomes, because we know that we don't have that option to fall back on something. We are full-time real estate agents, commission-based, and if we don't sell, we don't eat. And so for us, I think as soon as she went full time, it was like night and day. We picked up even more, because now it was like, okay, for her, it was like, I'm not working that other job, so I have something to prove. And for me, it was like, yay, now I finally have, this help where we can work together and grow. She would go to this client and show homes. I would go with that client and show homes, and it allowed us to tackle more. So for sure it was the best idea, but it took a couple of months and weeks, just like anything, maybe more, because we're siblings. And so you can cuss out your sister, but you can't cuss out somebody else. And so it's been awesome, though, and I'm so grateful for the dynamic that we have. And
we're funny.
Yeah.
And we're super
Oh,
happy.
you really know you're really funny. I mean, this is what we're gonna get to some banter. I think, when you first
there's
start
not a day
podcast
that
like
goes
this,
by. There's not a day that goes by that I'm like, this was boring. I'm like, man, this was great. I want to work. Let's go.
you have a very infectious energy, the both of you, but you have you have very different personalities, and you're both each of your own person, which is why I think this relationship really works. And I think about it like, how cool would it be to be able to work with one of your siblings and be able to create a life on it. But let me go back to some tactical stuff, right? So when you guys started to really go hard, right? Like, so for specifically you, Gabby, because Marcella, the mechanics of social media, you already understood. You can pick up this phone and immediately do a story and know that, how to put the music on it, how to do this and how to do that. You're good at that. And then Gabby, you had to come and really learn a new skill set and also get over the hump of, I'm going to start sharing my life.
Yeah.
And so tell me about like your tactical things that you were doing every day that you had to, really put in the work around social media that then became a muscle and where it is today. Like what did you have to do from beginning to now to be the type of person who's literally sharing so much of their life story on social media?
I would say just to not be scared and just go for it. So just not be scared and go for it. There's really there's no scientific formula. You just have to do it. I wake up every morning and I'm like, hey, you know what? I know that I have to post our listings. I know that I have to do maybe 2 personal stories. Marcella and I will do one business together. Maybe we'll do a few listings, but we just do it, Chris. Like I can't, you can't think about it too much. You hit record and then you post it.
Well, but that
And
didn't come like overnight. I mean, you had to get to a point where you were okay with that. Do you remember that moment that you were, like you got
it
over
was
the
when I
hump?
got my first lead.
Oh, when you got your first, and you
I
realized
got my
you felt the power of it, and you
first
were like,
lead.
you got a taste of it, and you
So
were like,
after I
let's.
got my first lead, I was hooked. Absolutely. I was hooked. I knew that what I was doing, it was going to work. And then I also started right from the beginning. From the beginning, as soon as I signed my paperwork with Zach Spencer, I signed that paperwork. I said, hey, you know what? I'm brand new. I don't know what I'm doing. And I want to make sure that I also learn from Marcella, but from others. What house coming up? Do you have any listings? Is there anything I can do? I'll do it free of charge. I do work a 9 to 5, but man, I'm off Saturdays, I'm off Sundays, and I'm willing to work 24 hours. Just allow me to do something for you. And I wasn't showing for just one agent. I was showing for multiple agents. I was going out, I would pick up the phone like, hey, you know what? And that's when gas was super expensive. And so I would say like, hey, how many showings do you have? Oh, I have like 3. Tell you what, we can do $50. I'll take care of a little bit of my gas, and then the rest will come in as extra income. But that's basically what I did. And then after the first lead came through Face or Instagram, at that moment in time, I knew that I couldn't stop. It was going to work. It was a great formula. Obviously, I have my sister to back it up. That's exactly what she was doing. It was working. So why not? Now we have different, she has over 10,000 followers, and they're different than my followers. And so I think we both bring our own uniqueness. I am 10 years older. So obviously my fan base or my followers are going to be a lot older than, than her. And it is, yeah, I would say, that's what I did, Chris. If that makes any
No, no,
sense,
I love
that's
it.
basically.
It does make sense, and I love it. I'm curious to know, because you say it, and this is this is the interesting thing about talking to someone like you both who are just doing it as a like you just know you have to do it. It just comes to you. And the audience is looking at you and saying, well, how do I do what they do, right? And you said something. It's almost like you have this calendar of, I know I got to get listings, I know I got to show XY. So tell me a little bit about like the things that you have to show, because everybody has these personal moments, everybody has these business moments, and then everybody has private moments that they don't want to share, and they don't need to share, right? Like I'll give you an example. My daughter broke her elbow, and I posted about it. And then a few weeks later, my wife had something that she had to go to the hospital for, but I was like, that's a little bit more private, so I'm not going to post about that. And so, there's levels of things that I'm willing to share, and things that that don't need to be shared.
Mhm.
But how do you guys determine the list of things? And if you don't mind, share some of the things that you're going to be sharing every day.
Well, I think really early on, like if you're looking for a pattern or something that you can write down and say like, okay, if I can stick to this, really early on, I always said I have to post every single day, one static post. For the first year in real estate, I said I will build my Instagram. My Instagram has to become 100%, my resume. And so for Gabby, I said the same thing. I said, every single day, I want you to post one static post, one carousel post on your Instagram, and also a reel every day. And that sounds like a lot. It sounds so annoying. And that's what you want to be. You want to be annoying. And I remember telling her, you're going to feel so annoying because it's over and over and over. But that's the point. You're planting a garden, you're watering your garden. If your garden is dead because you never go in and it, then when people go in to look for this garden, they're not going to go with the dead garden. They're going to go with the one that has this beautiful, lush green grass. So for us, it's every single day, one post and one reel for at least a year. Once we built our Instagram, it became a little more selective for me, obviously, because now I had a following. And so I wanted to make sure that the aesthetic ran and that I didn't want to post just anything. Obviously, I wanted the videos to do well if I posted a reel. So it kind of went down, but I still kept the same pattern: post, reel, post, reel. So at least my page and the flow of my Instagram and my Facebook look the same. But as far as what to show, there's nothing you shouldn't. Reality is the clients I want working with me and my sister are the ones who want to work with me and my sister. I'm not faking it. If you want me to sell your $4 million listing, it's because you like who me and Gabby are as people. We like gangster rap. We grew up in Glendale. We're Latinas and
From the
we're
West Side?
vocal. Yeah, and we're vocal. And if that bothers you, then we probably don't want to work with you.
You're
So
probably not the right
yeah,
client.
you're probably not the right client. So we want you to know who we are. I share a little bit about my personal life. You know, I like to work out. I have 2 kids, got engaged this year. We bought a home. So a little bit of everything. And I think it keeps you human. People don't buy a house with me because sell a lot of homes. They buy a house with me because they think I'm cool. And with Gabby, they want to hang out with us, you know? And I think that has been the reason why we've been so successful, because we've never pretended to be someone we're not. We're authentically who we are, and we know client for everybody. And so for the shy, for the one games, for there's space for everybody, you know, and that's why lenders do so well as well, because there's a certain type of lender for every person. And that's why we have certain lenders that work with certain clients and other ones that don't mesh with other clients, you know, because everybody has different personalities. And I even know sometimes this client does a little better with Gabby, or maybe Marcella, you know, speaks to this client a little bit better. And so we
Different
kind of
personalities.
different
Yeah.
personalities.
Everybody has different personalities. And so usually on a listing or on a new buyer, we both go together so that we know, like, hey, okay, let's fill this client out. Okay, you know what? This one will probably rock with me more. Or like, hey, you know what? This one's great for you. I'll take a step back and then I start with another client. But we are able to read and really go from there.
And I think because of the social media, it gives you the opportunity to walk into these listing appointments or buyer appointments where the counterparty kind of already knows you. And so that helps too, right? Because it kind of breaks the barrier of, oh, I'm meeting this random person. Like, I know who I'm going to talk to. Obviously, if somebody calls me via another method, I may not know, but I'm still going in and she's still going in as who we are. And so I, I that's why we love our clients and the clients love us, and everybody that we work with ends up being a long-term family friend because they are our people and they gravitate to us naturally because they see who we are naturally in public and everywhere. I don't think there's really anything you shouldn't show. And I think at the end of the day, hopefully, you know the difference between something that's appropriate and something that's not appropriate to share. But if that person felt, inclined to share something about someone passing and somebody didn't perceive it appropriately, maybe that's just not someone, that you would work well with. But at the end of the day, I don't think you should ever dim your light for anyone. You should be authentically who you are, and your clients will come.
And then also, I think our knowledge, when people see, like Marcella and I are not just real estate agents. My background and her background, we've been in the post closing department. We've been in the pre. We have seen foreclosures. We have helped people with bankruptcy. We know that we can help you buy a home. That's no problem. But we can also help you if stuff goes down. If shit goes down, we also got you because we know about modifications. We know forbearance plans. We are well rounded real estate agents. And so we know the front, we know the back, and we know the middle. And that's another thing, that speaks for itself. When we meet these people, they can see that we know what we're talking about and we can help them. And as far as sales and as far as being told no, we've been told so many different times. In a call center, you pick up the phone, you know how many times you're going to be told no? Millions of times. We've been through that already. And so I think that also people gravitate to that as well.
You don't
Well, I
need the
think so.
knowledge, though.
You don't.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, I think I'll say it again. I think people who are ultra successful in what they're doing, or they use a platform to help other people, I think there's a few key things that you said there that I think people need to write down. And I think one of those is your audience, the people that you want to work with. you got to be very definitive about. And I think what you guys have done is said, look, I'm who I am. And if you don't like it, it's probably not a good fit for me, but I'm not going to dim my light in order to make you happy. Right. And I think that that is something that I think a lot of people need to realize, is that you don't always have to play to the masses, because I think the people who gravitate towards you, if you're real and you're authentic, are going to gravitate you because you're real and you're authentic. I think a lot of people are afraid, and I think a lot of the audience members that are listening to this may not understand that it's okay to show your personal life. And I was on another mastermind a few weeks ago. I actually posted about this as well, but um, they said something along the lines of, there's so many people that are afraid to post their personal life because they're afraid that people are going to think they're not working. And it's no, it's actually the opposite. It's show your personal life because people want to know, like, I know that you guys work out at F45. And so if I work out at F45, or I like group training, or I'm wondering about F45, that may be a reason that I reach out to you, or like comment on something that you're doing. Um, and then, or I'll notice like something, you guys dress really dope, and I'll comment sometimes on that. And I'm like, I love what, you guys are doing. And so that makes me want to be connected to you. But the person that is not showing that, the person that's going through the hustle that you're going through, but they're afraid to pick up their phone, is missing out on major opportunities. So let's talk about that for a second. When you look at your business and you look at your business model, how much of your business do you think has been either generated or you're converted higher simply because you had social media presence?
So out of 100, 70% of our transactions close or originated through social media.
Okay, hold on. Stop right there. Stop right. Hold on 1 second. If you close 100 deals, 70% of them are coming because of something you posted on social media and the frequency that you posted.
In some way, shape, or form, or it's SOI that we've kept communication with through social media. And so that for us is like the key factor. I know people will say, well, like, that's your SOI. You met them at a job you once had. But for me, I look at it like this. Where did they see me and where did the lead actually originate? And I know it originated online because they saw me post something. Like Gabby and I both know that if we post a video of a pretty home, just the video, you will get questions about it. Where is it? How much does it cost? Oh, I love that bathroom. Or, oh, one day when I move up in homes, I'm going to call you. And that's exactly why we post consistently. But I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, that's mine is all social media.
So if you go,
so it all originates.
If you open up your DMs right now on Instagram, how many conversations do you think you have in a day just in DM?
I think I would be lying if I said my DMs are answered immediately, but on average, more than 50% of my communication is in my DMs.
It goes down in the DM, guys. It goes down.
It goes down. And so truly it does. It really does. I mean, obviously I have my text messages, but once you've moved into my phone and I'm texting you, it's because more than likely we had business running at that point, right? Yeah. And so I would say it almost always originates in the DMs, but I don't know how many conversations I have running on a daily basis. That's my way of communicating with people. That's how I stay up to date. That's, maybe not Popeyes, but I comment on all of my clients' pictures. I stay up to date. I know when they're getting divorced. I know when they're moving. I know when they got a new job. I know when it's their kid's birthday. I know when they went on vacation. And that's what I think keeps us informed of our public. But we use social media 100%, honestly. And then the other 30 comes from direct referral. And that could either be like a family member or my mom, because she's been, licensed for over 2 decades. And so she clearly comes with a long line of of clients as well that will continue to come to her for a long time.
And then
Yeah,
also,
generation.
Chris, on my end, what I do every single Friday is I send anywhere from 300 to 500 messages. I get up at 4 a.m. and I'm done by like 7 a.m. And I send a specific, well, I mean, just like a message to the mass, but it's very detailed message to each single person. And I do that every Friday. Out of that, I will
Wait,
probably get
who's the
about,
person you're sending it to? And is
so
it
I
what?
send it out to my like social media. So like my followers. So on Facebook and Instagram, they're very different, like very different crowds too. The Facebook for me are
Yeah.
more of the older crowd.
Mhm.
Instagram is more of the younger crowd, but I am sending messages on both ends, Instagram and Facebook. Out of that, just this week, we got a lead because it was like, oh yeah, you know what? Marcella and Gabby are great. You should give them a call. And so
To-
everything comes through social media.
To who? Anyone. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes they don't even live in the state and she'll send the message, you know? And so, and for me, I'm really big on groups. So like I'm in a single moms group. I'm in Connect Utah. I'm in like the Kearns group, the Taylorsville group, the Sandy group. I'm in all these groups so that I can be vigilant at what people are posting. And when people have questions about specific things it's weird. I could be scrolling through Facebook for hours and I don't know how I always see the post where someone's asking about a house, but for me, that's what works. It's staying on top of everybody and kind of seeing what they're doing through social media. I don't know why anybody wouldn't use it. It's crazy. It's free. It's like,
Well, it's amazing. It's amazing that people won't, but I mean, like, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to inspire, the person that is sitting there watching this and saying, well, I can do what they're doing. Right. So I want to go back a little bit because I want to turn what you just said that I think you do so easily, but I want to turn it into something that somebody can tactically pick up. But you said, Gabby, I'll start with you. You said, I actually send out messages, right? So when on Friday, you start engaging in people's social media, is this through DM or is it a combination of DM and then comments on post? What is your,
Yeah,
what,
so it's actually a DM. I send a message and it's a message like, hey, Kathy, it's me again. Hey, girl, don't forget, I'm a real estate agent. And if you need a house or if you know of anyone that wants to buy or sell, send me a message. I'll
so
take care
you're
of them.
legit sending a 200 to
Oh,
300
yeah.
message
Oh, yeah.
to this with a
One person
straight
at a time. Bam.
call to
One
action.
person at a time
Okay. All right. And
on
then,
Facebook and Instagram.
and that is yielding you conversation and leads.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
and
That's
she's
amazing.
done it.
And I've been doing it from the day that I started. And that's where her and I are like, she's like, okay, Gabby, I always tell her, hey, I'm going to do this for a few months. It's going to take me about 7 months, but I really need to see the data behind it to see if it's even going to work. So from day one, it's been bam, 250 messages, Instagram, Facebook, 250 to 500. And it's every Friday. Does it work? Absolutely. It works because it's been working for us. And that's basically what I do. It doesn't fail.
No, I
That's what
love
I do.
it. And then on the second hand, and then Marcella, you are saying, okay, you focus on that. I'm going to take and I'm going to go hit the groups, right? You're going to the local community clubs that are online and you're going in there and you're answering questions and you're engaging and you're commenting. And through that, that's yielding leads as well.
Well, and also, so Gabby does a lot of our static posts
Mhm.
now that she's adapted to that and she does so great. It took a little while because I was like, hey, you got to match the aesthetic, but she got it. And I think a lot of people are scared to jump in and learn Canva. You
Yeah.
need to. If you don't know how to learn, if you can't do a flyer and make it look pretty, then, but it doesn't matter because her flyer started off not pretty. And I always told her, I said, look at how mine started, night and day. I said, but you have to learn, and learning means doing. So you have to do it consistently so that you can get better. And so little by little, she got better. She learned how to drop in pictures and whatever. For me, it's also reels. Reels do really good for us. I do have over 10,000 followers. We've gone viral so many times. And so for me, it's more like she does the direct and I do more of like okay, I'm going to gather content that's trending, and we're going to do this reel, this reel, this reel, this reel. So she goes, exposes us this way, and then I get 20 million or 20,000 views on a video and a bunch of comments, and that also gets us exposure. And, you know, it all comes fruition that way. And for us, it also helps us in marketing the properties, you know. So we've been able to successfully market these homes and get them even more exposure because of it. But we also have such a big following, and we follow so many that we have the insider detail too. So I know about those homes that are, you know, for sale that aren't on the market, because I watch my friends' Instagrams that say, hey, I got this property in Sandy, Utah for sale. You know, it's off market. And now I've given my buyers opportunities that maybe other agents can't, because they don't know what's going on. And so I think we live in a society that doesn't like change. I know for a fact, because my mom's been a real estate agent for so long, and getting her to adapt and do things is like pulling teeth. She doesn't want to. She's made a career for herself already without posting on social media and doing this and doing that. And so I think that's always the like the excuse. I always say it's an excuse. If you say, "Oh, I don't post because this," excuse. You don't post because you don't want to. Just be honest. Like,
Or you're
that's
afraid to,
crap.
right? I mean, I think most of it is a mindset of being fearful. It's afraid of what people are going to say about you. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I think you guys have had to deal, being women. I think women have it the worst on social media, right? Like the comments, or, you know, talk to me about that. Like how do you digest when somebody is a troll, or somebody slides in the DMs and is, you know, inappropriate? Like, how do you guys handle those? Do you just block them immediately, or do you, you know, how do you handle it?
Depends what mood you catch us on.
I usually say that these dumb hoes, and then move on. But yeah, that's
It
what I
depends
say.
on, you know,
doesn't.
it depends. Obviously, we've posted some videos that, you know, were very controversial, and it got a lot of heat. And
Which one was controversial that got a lot of heat? Because
I posted one that, you know, was about not chasing leads. I don't believe in
I love
cold
that
calling.
one. Actually, that one I love, because you were like, I'm sorry, but I've never had to chase it. I won't. Like, that's
I
not what
won't. And I think that bothers people, because so many brokerages thrive on the fact that agents will call these lists that they bought, and that they'll make money off of them without having to really do any work. And I don't believe in that. And so, sorry, I also don't believe in calling you to ask if you want to buy a house. You should know. And you should be calling me and my sister. Why am I chasing you? If I have to call you to ask you to submit your documents, you're probably not ready to buy a home. You should be fully ready to be committed to 30-year mortgage with, you know, a payment and principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And to me, you show your preparation to be a homeowner by doing that, by
I think
coming to me.
I think the people who are gonna hate on you the most are people who are not doing as well as you are. That's number one.
It's
But number
always that.
two, you've proven out that you can attract versus chase. And I think if you can prove that out, then I mean, I would implore you to keep talking about it. And this is what this entire podcast is about. In fact, I think, you know, what we should call it is like, you know, how to never chase a deal because of social media, because I think that you guys have proven that 70% of your business will come from a post that you've done, and the rest of the deals are coming from maybe a post from somebody that initially
Saw a
came.
post.
Yeah. So it is all the same thing, right? But I think for you guys, and what you're doing is remarkable. I mean, it's remarkable. And before, you know, because we're almost at time, and I wanna capture this, because this is what the podcast is all about. Like, there are times in life where people find themselves in a moment, and it's a critical moment, that they're sitting by themselves, or they're in a time where they know they need to make a change. And they know that if, in order to get to the next part of their life, or over this hump or out of the hole that they're in, something that they are going to have to do is going to have to change. And I want to talk about a moment that you guys had. Maybe it's together or separate, but I don't want to end this without sharing that story so that people who might be in that hole right now can leverage what you can give them to get out of it.
Well, I mean, I'll go first. I think Gabby and I, we do have separate stories. We obviously had a breakthrough moment together in our career. And it was probably just learning to work together and learning her fortes, my fortes, and us, coming together as a group. But for me, it was different. I came to a point of realization, at a different period than my sister did. And I didn't go into it a lot. My sister came, she immigrated into the country. And so she's always had a different thing, and her life situation was different. Mine was as well, but I unfortunately got into, two really bad relationships and had my 2 babies, and had been in a really bad one for over 4 years. And I think terrible credit. I had thyroid cancer, 2 back surgeries, 2 preemie babies, my gallbladder taken out. I mean, you name it, I had just everything. And so coming out of a severe depression was really hard as a single mom. But I remember that day when I asked for some money, and it was for something that I needed. And I had done so much for this person, and I just couldn't believe that they would tell me, like, "Where's your money?" And I realized in that moment that everything that hadn't happened in my life was my fault. That I had lived a mediocre existence up until that moment. And I was, just kind of taking the motions of life and raising my kids, but not doing a good job. And if I wanted better, I needed to do better. And um, I made that choice and I haven't gone back. That was a very split decision. And I'm so thankful that I decided to stop being passive in life. But that was my moment. I decided that nobody else was going to come save me. My mom couldn't keep paying for me to do X, Y, and Z. I couldn't ever put my kids through sports. I couldn't do anything that I wanted unless I took the responsibility to do it. And now I can put them through those things, and I'm so grateful. But it comes down to me. I had to do it. And my sister's been a huge example. She had a baby at a young age, and I always remember thinking, like, being a single mom was never something I was embarrassed of. And so I needed to pick it up. And when I did, it was like that moment of showing up for yourself, and you see it. You're like, God, why wasn't I showing up sooner? As soon as I started showing up, life turned around. I got my teeth done. I got a nice car. My kids were in sports. He played football, hated it, but still could put him in it, And so for me, that was my breakthrough moment. It was a moment of realizing my shortcomings were my fault. And if I wanted better, I had to do it.
I
So
love
for
that.
me,
And real quickly, I mean, isn't it weird? Like, there's things that we growing up think to ourselves are like what the rich people do. And like kids being in sports is like what the rich people do. Like I didn't play sports when I was growing up because that's what the rich people did, right? Like, but when you can actually send your kids to do the stuff that you were never able to do, it's a good feeling. So
I
Marcella,
never buy my kids stuff for them. And I think they think I do, but it's not. I'm like, you guys look nice for me. I'm like, it's me. I'm proving to myself I did that.
it's
You're
a funny thing. That is a funny thing to say and admit, but it's so true.
I think they think like, oh, I'm buying you $160 pair of shoes because I want you to floss on your friends. No, I'm flossing on myself. I'm reminding myself, like, I got my kids looking so nice. And half the time, they don't even know what the heck they're wearing. I'll ask them, hey, did anybody say anything about your cool outfit today? No, mom. Nobody said anything about my outfit. Nobody ever says anything about my
I love
outfit.
this. I love this.
But for me, it's like, so much pride that I feel when I see them going to school dressed to the nines and at their best. And I want them to know. And I tell them that too. My mom's always been really big on, you wake up and you dress for the job you want. and you don't go through life, not in your best. So I tell them that as well. And I always tell them, like, I don't want you guys to go to school and someone look at you and be like, oh my God, that mom does not take care of her kids. And I want you guys to wake up when you grow up and know, like, okay, I got to take my kids a shower, do their hair, get them dressed. And you do that every single day. And that's something that Gabby and I are really, really big on. We show up every single day. We get up, we get dressed, we change, and it automatically changes our mindset. So,
I love that. Oh, and that's
we're
so
in the
true.
right
I think that that's like a really, I mean, that's even another hack. It's like you want to be successful, you have to dress for the part. And you can't be in sweats all day. I mean, you're gonna have to get ready, and one part of your brand, both of you, is that you dress really well. But I think that that's part of the gig. I mean, you realize it, and you want to, and also in a way, it makes social media a lot easier to post something when you feel good about yourself. So, if you're afraid to post, it's probably also because you just don't feel good about yourself today. So, step it up. And so, let's hear Gabby. Tell me about your breakthrough story.
So for mine, Chris, I've had many, many years in
Bring the mic.
management.
Bring the mic a little bit
Oh,
closer
can you
to
hear
you.
me
Sorry.
better?
Yeah, we can hear
Okay,
you.
so like I was saying, I've had several years in management. And when COVID happened, I was working for one of the greatest companies that I've had the pleasure to work with, and that's Academy Mortgage. Well,
Mhm.
everything was tanking, they were closing down, and they laid me off. And during that time, I said to myself, what do I do next? And it was something scary. Like she said, I'm very methodical. I need to make sure that I am reviewing everything. If this doesn't go right, what can happen? This happen. That's how my brain works. But then I thought to myself, like, we're going to take it back to when I was 6 years old. Okay. So at 6 years old, I crossed the country illegally. I was in prison with my mom, with my father and my brother. Before that, my dad left us for 2 full years. We don't even know where he's at. We shouldn't even call him that. Anyways, but, and after that, I get pregnant at 15. And my mom wasn't easy. She was like, hey, you messed up and now you're going to have 2 weeks to leave my house. And I'm going to, give you these couches, but I need you to get up and run because you fucked up. And I said, okay, that's fine. And so I took that upon myself to go, there was never that fear. And so when it came to real estate, and here's COVID, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm working for this company, this attorney's company, where I'm like, oh man, this is not going to work. But Marcella keeps telling me, hey, I'm busy. Please help me come. And I'm like, I'm telling my husband, like, should I do it? Or what about if I fail? Holy cow, Alex. And it's not to like not to sound crazy or anything, but I just didn't really fail when it came to jobs. And so this was one thing where I was like, damn. And it slapped me in the face. I went through my testing and I failed 3 times at 69%. I was 1% away from making it every single time. And that right there drove me even more because I was like, oh, hell no. Like I am not. Like I will pass this goddamn test. And when I sell one house, if I can just sell one, I'll say I did it and then I'll move on to something else. I've always been good at corporate America, but that was not the case. I went in and within my first 2 weeks of having my license, a friend of mine called me and she was like, hey, there's this little elderly man that needs help. He needs to sell his trailer. And so I said, okay, no problem. It was on a Thursday. I get there and he was like, hey, you know what? They've only been offering me 13,000, but my wife is dying of cancer and I really need help. It wasn't about the money, Chris. And it's never about the money with us. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to help you. And I helped this elderly man get from 13,000 to 35,000. And I think that was the first little commission check that I got. That was 3,000. I remember driving home and it was, the exchange, like, here you go, here's your 3,000. And I was ecstatic, but it wasn't because of the money. It was because like, hey, now you have 35,000 in your pocket and you get to go home to Chicago and get your wife, get her into Mexico and bury her. And that right there was a breaking moment where I can do this. I can help people. And there's nobody else better than us to be out there helping people. I mean, our first house with my mom, it was through Habitat for Humanity. I worked My brother and I, Marcella was a baby, but my brother and I and my mom, we worked. I remember my 5th grade year, my 6th grade year. There was no such thing as having your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday weekend. No, it was like, hey, Gabby, Junior, it's Saturday. You guys need to put in 8 hours. We need to get that house. We need to take care of grandma. We need to take care of Marcella. I think she was only like 2 years old. And so everything packed in one, Chris. There has never been a question in my mind that I was not going to, going to succeed. I was going to, by all means necessary. And, and that's what we do. We don't stop. We just keep working. But my mom is a great example. And I mean, man, she's done so much. Then why wouldn't we? Like, why not us? And that's how I see it.
I think
That was my breaking moment.
I think that question is something that everybody should be asking themselves if they can do it, why not us?
Yeah, why
And
not
I
us?
think that comment that you say to yourself, and when you're driving by yourself and you see somebody with that success and you're not asking that question, why not me? Why not me? Is,
Yeah.
something that we got to push ourselves to do more. But um I'm so fortunate to be able to be in rooms with you guys and to be friends with you. And I love your story. I love your energy. I'm proud to watch what you guys are doing because I think I said this to you. I'm literally watching 2 multimillionaire Latinas breaking through every day when I open up my phone. And I love engaging with you guys. I know that this is going to be a long-term friendship, but I'm proud of you. I am so proud of what you guys are building. And so just know that the pleasure of doing this podcast with you is all mine. I want to do more with you guys. And so the next time I'm in Salt Lake City, we will have our podcast studio there and we can go live and we can do some fun stuff. But I love you guys.
I don't cry, but yeah,
Here.
we love you, Chris.
We do, and we don't love everybody.
But we love you. You're amazing. Your story, I actually for NAHREP, I met you through NAHREP. And then I was sitting there and I didn't want to go. I was like, oh man, this is going to be done. But after I heard you speak and you were legit raw, you were like, hey, I'm here. I think at that time you were like, hey, I'm 60 days sober and this is me. And then I thought to myself, I told Marcella right after that, I said, that's the shit that you need in NAHREP. People to be truly genuine and to truly tell the stories how they are. Not, oh, I sold so many houses and all of this and I have so many $1 million. It's like, no, I've been through hell and back because social media only see the colorful things. They don't see what Marcella and I, those 45 days in a transaction, what we go through. Nobody sees that. You only see at the end, the beauty.
We try to share every aspect of our life so that people know, like, oh, the girls work day in and day out. And I think you said something earlier. People are so scared to post on social media because you don't want to perceive something like, oh, they don't work. They don't work, right? But I mean, the reality is that social media is crazy because you get to curate what you post. You get to be who you want on social media. You could be anybody, So if you create this persona that's hard to keep up with, then obviously it's rough. And that's why a lot of people, if I could say one thing, it's build your business off of your current presence, off your social media that you already have. Stop building these second accounts where you have your business and then on this side you've got your personal life. Now, granted, if you're a little crazy, then I understand why maybe you have 2 accounts because maybe you don't want to be posting everything online. Right? But I would also
this is a question I get often. This is a question I get often from, in masterminds I'm in and people I'm coaching is, should I have 2 accounts, a business and a personal? And my advice is always no, like you got to mesh them together. One, it's hard. I don't have time to do, different ones like, but if you can just mesh it into one and show everybody everything, then that's the authentic you, like what you have built.
And I think obviously I have somebody in mind as an agent and he's a little controversial and he posts a little, some things that are a little bit, leftist and outlandish. And he would always say like, I don't know how this is going to translate. And I always told him, perfect. to the people who are meant to work with you. So you keep being exactly who you are. Don't sugarcoat it. If you need to cuss and swear and, you know, say some weird thing, there are those buyers out there who think that's funny. I'm like, maybe I don't, but you know, somebody out there has your humor and they need to sell and they need to buy, and they don't want to buy with me and Gabby because we're weird to them. But you, they think you're normal. I'm like, so there you go. I'm like, who knew? So don't make this
Total,
fake
you have a
profile.
total abundance mentality, and I think that is
Absolutely.
like, that is, you know, really what serves you guys well. But I don't think that anybody has ever come on here and explained branding in such a raw way. But it's just be you, and don't be afraid of it, and know that you can't serve everybody. Who likes you is who's going to like you, and who's going to work with somebody else is
Right
going to
from
work
you.
with somebody else. But I appreciate the fact that you guys have been here today, and it means the world to me. And so the next time I'm in Salt Lake, we're going to do this live and in person.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you guys for being here today, and I know the audience appreciates it. And we will be rolling this one out very soon, so stay tuned.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you guys.